Hey guys, so today we are going to be talking about pointe shoes. So as you may know, pointe shoes are something that pretty much every female dancer uses, and actually some male dancers, but of course that is not as common. Even though every dancer uses pointe shoes, the way that each dancer prepares their pointe shoes is generally pretty unique. So today I'm going to show you how I like to prepare my pointe shoes and maybe give a little bit of insight for people who don't really know much about pointe shoes or ballet into what goes into sewing pointe shoes, pointe work, what are they made of. So I got my first pair of pointe shoes when I was 11, and my teacher decided that my ankles were strong enough for me to start pointe. This is a general rule that when a child is very young, the teacher has to be the one to say when a child is ready to start pointe, because they can see, a good teacher should be able to see how the ankle is developing, and if the ankle is strong enough and the child is strong enough, usually around age 11 or 12 is generally when people say it's safe to start pointe work, although some people do start pointe much earlier, maybe around the age of 8. I'm not sure what I think about that. Personally, in my opinion, I think you need to be a little bit older to be able to start pointe work safely. So once your teacher says that you're ready to start pointe work, usually a young dancer will be sent to a dance store with a pointe shoe fitter available. So a pointe shoe fitter is someone who fits pointe shoes to your feet professionally. They should be able to, based on how your foot looks, how strong your ankle is, how high your arch is, be able to generally tell you what style of pointe shoes you should be trying, what hardness, because there's so many different aspects that go into finding the perfect shoe for each person's foot and their preference. So I would highly recommend the first pointe shoe fitting for anyone, adult or child, to be with a pointe shoe fitter, someone who's professional, who has done this for years and who knows what they're talking about. So there are so many brands and types and kinds of pointe shoes out there, even more than when I was young. And when I was young, there was already an insane amount of pointe shoes on the market. You would think that this makes it easier to find a pair of shoes that is right for your feet, but it actually, in my experience, has made it much harder just because of the sheer amount of different types of pointe shoes available. I personally have tried so many different kinds of shoes. Block, Capezio, Russian Pointe, Grishko, Sancha, and of course Gaynor Menden. My personal favorites, when I was young, I really loved Grishko. I really loved Sancha, maybe because these are two of the most available pointe shoes in Russia when I was studying there, and some of the models that they make there, they don't sell internationally. Now, as a professional dancer, I wear Gaynor Menden shoes pretty much just because of how long they last, and my whole life I've had a problem of going through shoes really fast due to the flexibility of my feet. Let's just talk a little bit about how I sew my pointe shoes. I really find that I have a tendency to slide down when I go from a standing position into a position where I'm on pointe. My foot slides down into the box. So the first thing I like to do is sew an elastic here, right around where my arch hits. So when my foot is in the shoe, the arch is more supported because of this elastic. It holds my foot higher in the shoe. I personally like when my shoes break here under the heel rather than down here under the toes, for comfort reasons, and also because since I have a really flexible arch, if it breaks under the toes, I'm constantly falling over my shoe. It's painful and it doesn't look very good. The second thing that I will sew when I'm sewing my shoes is the elastics by the ankle. I sew them generally in an X shape. So the first is down here at the heel, and then it will come across to over here down by the arch. I like to really feel that my foot is secure in the shoe and not just sliding around everywhere. This really makes sure that my foot feels really cozy and doesn't move around too much when I'm dancing. What I learned when I was young is that the left elastic should go on top of the right elastic. if it's the left shoe, and of course opposite for the right. The final thing that I tend to do when I'm sewing my shoes is the ribbons. There's a lot of different types of ribbons. I personally prefer ribbons made of fabric. Rishko makes great ribbons like this, but we also get free ribbons from the theater, which are just basic ballet ribbon. I sew them right where the elastic hits so that there's a double pull on that part, which I like to be right underneath my arch. It also keeps my foot more secure in the shoe. When I tie my shoes, I make sure that if it's the left foot, the left elastic goes on top when I'm tying them. That also is just something that someone told me when I was young, and I've just always been doing it. Okay, so another thing that we can talk about is jet glue. So shoes, pointe shoes tend to, in the ballet world we say die, just means that they're extremely soft and they start becoming hard to wear. This is true with every type of shoe I've found, even Gaynor Mendens, which are marketed as shoes that never die. Please, I have had so many Gaynor Mendens die. It's just a different experience than with other shoes because they are made of plastic instead of materials that break down much faster. I can link below a video of how actual regular pointe shoes are made, which is really interesting actually, but we're not going to talk about that in this video. So a lot of dancers use jet glue to make sure that their shoes stay hard for as long as possible. It can actually save a lot of money because once your shoes are dead, jet glue is the strongest type of glue that I have ever experienced, and it can make your shoes hard again once they are soft. Even though Gaynor Mendens are not supposed to die, when they do die, for me, I personally do jet glue them as well. I tend to jet glue here on the bottom of the shoe, on the outside and on the inside, right where my arch is, so that that part, which is the part that generally tends to break the fastest, stays stronger for longer. And I think that's a pretty basic thing that most dancers do. A lot of dancers also will jet glue the toe part of the shoe. So they'll put glue in here and it will go down into the toe, because the toe also tends to get soft in most shoes very quickly. In Gaynor Mendens, that is not a problem because A, they have a suede tip most of the time, and B, they are made of plastic. Depending on the type of your feet, some people will need to use spacers in between their toes to make pointe work comfortable for them. I personally have that problem. My second toe is longer than my first toe, and I have a tendency to get corns in between my toes, which is disgusting. We're not going to talk about that, but just to protect my toes, I need to put something in between my big toe and second toe, as well as something a little bit smaller in between my second and third toe. Toe pads are also very personal for each dancer. Some people like really thick toe pads so that they don't really feel the floor. I personally prefer the thinnest available toe pads, which for me are Grishko. They do have gel on the inside, but they're so thin that I can still really feel the floor. Some people don't like to feel the floor at all. Some people use multiple toe pads. Some people use no toe pads. So of course that's also very personal. I hope that this was a pretty comprehensive video about pointe shoes. It's hard to make a video about pointe shoes because each dancer prepares their shoes differently, has a different way of doing it. If someone has any questions about pointe shoes or sewing pointe shoes or whatever, just drop me a question in the comments or just write to me on pretty much any social media platform because I'm just everywhere. So yeah.